A homeless girl froze, and her inaction triggered an unbelievable response. When a toddler's life hangs in the balance, an entire brotherhood shifts into a mode you have to see to believe. This is not a story about violence. It's about a ruthless, miraculous kind of order. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The rain in the city wasn't water. It was ice. Tiny, sharp needles that strung the skin. 16-year-old Rose huddled in the bus stop shelter, pulling her thin jacket tight. She watched the cars go by, their lights blurry in the freezing rain. She was good at being invisible, a skill you learn on the streets. A woman rushed into the shelter, holding a little girl tight. The girl was maybe 3, wrapped in a puffy pink coat. The woman, Lucy, was trying to call someone, her phone slipping in her wet hands. "Come on, pick up Mark," she muttered. The little girl, Stella, squirmed. She had a small bag of grapes in her hand. Lucy was distracted, her voice rising with worry into the phone. "She's burning up, Mark. The clinic said it's just a cold, but I'm taking her to the hospital now. Meet us there." Stella put a grape in her mouth. She coughed. Then she made a small, choking sound. Lucy turned. "Stella, honey." Stella's eyes went wide. She clutched her throat. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her face started to turn red, then a scary shade of purple. "Stella," Lucy screamed. She dropped the phone. She grabbed her daughter, turning her over, slapping her back. Nothing. The little girl's body went limp. Rose froze. Her brain screamed help, but her body was a statue. She knew about street fights, about hiding from cops, about where to find food. She didn't know about choking Barbies. She just stared, terrified. Lucy was sobbing, shaking Stella, screaming for help into the empty, rainy street. Then Rose heard it, not a siren, a roar. It started as a low rumble and grew into a deafening thunder. Headlights appeared, not cars, dozens of them, then hundreds, motorcycles. They poured into the street from every direction, a river of chrome and leather. They surrounded the bus stop. The bikes stopped, the engines cut off. The sudden silence was broken only by Lucy's cries. A huge man got off the lead bike. It was Mark. He saw his wife and his daughter limp in her arms. His face, usually hard as stone, went pale. But he didn't scream, he didn't panic. He yelled one word: Protocol Alpha. It was like flipping a switch. 180 Hell's Angels moved at once. It wasn't chaos. It was a drill. They had practiced this. Bikes roared to life again and began to park in a tight, wide circle around the bus stop, facing outward. The deep, thumping sound of their engines created a wall of noise, damping Lucy's screams from the outside world. A younger biker, a prospect named Daniel, jumped off his bike. He ran forward, dropping a small medical kit. "I'm trained, let me see," he yelled to Lucy. Lucy, in shock, handed her daughter over. Daniel laid Stella on the cold ground. He checked her mouth. He couldn't see the grape. He turned her over and began precise, hard thrusts with his fists into her little abdomen, the Heimlich maneuver. Mark was on his phone, barking orders. "We need the bus. Now, converge on 7th and Grand." Rose just watched, her back pressed against the glass shelter, forgotten. This was an army, and they were trying to save a life. After what felt like forever, a wet, mushy grape shot out of Stella's mouth. She gasped, a raw, beautiful sound. Then she started to wail, a loud, crying, living sound. A massive cheer went up from the circle of bikers, but it lasted only a second. "She's not breathing right," Daniel yelled. "She's blue around the lips. She needs oxygen now." Mark didn't hesitate. "Escort formation, where is the bus?" Just then, a city bus rounded the corner, its lights on. 3 bikes shot out to meet it. They rode in a triangle around it, forcing it to stop right next to the circle. The bus driver, a man named Carl, opened the doors, his face white with fear. "Sir, what is?" "We are commandeering this bus for a medical emergency," Mark said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "You will be paid. Now open the doors and prepare to drive." 2 bikers gently took Stella from Daniel. They ran her onto the bus, Lucy stumbling after them. They laid Stella on the long back seat. Daniel jumped on with his kit. Another biker, An older man named Paul, who had been an army medic years ago, jumped on too. Mark was about to board when he saw Rose. She was still frozen, shaking, her eyes huge. She was just a kid, a dirty, scared kid. "You come on," he said, not unkindly. I didn't do anything," Rose stammered, ashamed. "Exactly, you didn't get in the way, now get on the bus. You can't stay here." Rose scrambled onto the bus. The doors closed. Mark looked at his men. "Rolling shield, clear a path to Mercy General, go, go, go." The bus engine revved. The circle of bikes broke apart and reformed. About 50 bikes rode ahead of the bus. 50 rode beside it. The rest rode behind it. They filled the entire width of the road. The lead bikes hit their horns, not the weak beeps of cars, but deep air horn blasts. They rode straight towards red lights and intersections. Cars screeched to a halt, pulling over, terrified by the wall of motorcycles. The bus, with its strange escort, plowed through the city. It didn't stop for anything. The bikers parted traffic like Moses parting the sea. On the bus, it was quiet except for Stella's weak cries and Lucy's soft sobbing. Paul and Daniel worked over Stella. They had a small oxygen tank from the medic kit. They put a tiny mask on her face. Rose sat in a seat near the front, hugging herself. She watched the bikers outside the window. They were focused, serious. This was their mission. The bus driver, Carl, was sweating. "They're gonna fire me," he muttered. A biker sitting behind him, a man with a kind face named James, leaned forward. "No, they won't. My club will make a donation to the transit authority. A big one. You're helping save a little girl. Just drive." They reached Mercy General Hospital in under 4 minutes. A trip that should have taken 15. The bikes formed a semicircle at the emergency room entrance. The bus doors opened. Daniel and Paul ran out with Stella, the oxygen mask still on her face. Lucy ran behind them, followed by Mark. Doctors and nurses were already rushing out, alerted by a call from another biker. They took Stella and ran inside. Suddenly it was over. The operation was complete. The bikes idled quietly. The bikers watched the hospital doors. On the bus, it was just Rose, Carl the driver, and James. James looked at Rose. "You okay, kid?" Rose just nodded, but she was crying. The shock was wearing off. James got up and sat across from her. "What's your name?" "Rose." "You got somewhere to go, Rose?" She shook her head. James looked out the window at the club. He got off the bus and walked over to Mark, who was staring at the hospital doors. Mark listened, then looked back at the bus. He saw the skinny girl inside. He nodded. James came back. "Come on, you're with us until we know she's okay. You look like you could use a hot meal." Rose didn't argue. She followed James off the bus. He put her on the back of his bike, gave her a helmet, and they rode, not to the hospital, but to a nearby diner called Moe's. Half the club seemed to pour into Moe's. They took up every booth. They were loud again, but the tension was gone. They had done their job. Now they waited. Rose sat in a booth with James and a woman named Mercy, who had arrived in a car. Mercy ordered Rose a huge plate of pancakes and hot chocolate. "So you were just there," Mercy said, her voice gentle. "Yeah," Rose whispered. "I froze, I didn't help." "You didn't hurt," Mercy said. "That's something, and you didn't panic when the bikes came. That's a lot." As they ate, Rose learned names. The big leader was Mark. His wife was Lucy. The little girl was Stella. The medic was Paul. The prospect was Daniel. James was Mark's younger brother. An hour later, Mark walked into the diner. Everyone went quiet. He looked tired, but he was smiling. "She's gonna be fine," he said. His voice was rough with emotion. The grape blocked her airway. She just needed oxygen. They're keeping her overnight. Lucy's with her. The diner erupted in cheers, claps, and banging on tables. Mark walked over to Rose's booth. He sat down heavily. The doctors said those first few minutes were critical. "What my guys did, it saved her life." He looked at Rose. "Thank you." "For what?" Rose asked, confused. "I didn't do anything." You were there, Mark said simply. You were a witness. Sometimes that matters. He saw she had no coat. Her shoes were wet through. Where do you stay, kid? Rose looked down at her pancakes, around. Mark and Mercy shared a look. You're not going back to the street tonight, Mercy said. It wasn't a question. After the pancakes, Mercy didn't ask. She just took Rose to her car, a big, old SUV. You're staying with me tonight, she said. Rose was too tired and full to argue. Mercy lived in a small, neat house not far from the club's main garage, the Sanctum. It was warm and clean. She gave Rose soft pajamas, too big but comfortable, and put her in a spare bedroom. Rose slept for 12 hours straight. When she woke up, it was afternoon. She could smell coffee and bacon. She walked into the kitchen. Mercy was cooking. A man was at the table, James, from last night. Sleeping Beauty wakes up, James said with a friendly smile. Sit, eat, Mercy said, putting a plate in front of her. As Rose ate, James asked easy questions, not where are your parents, but do you like eggs? And was the bed okay? It was nice. Later, James took her to the Sanctum. He said, Mark wants to see you, don't be scared. The clubhouse was quieter in the daytime. Some men were working on bikes. They looked up as she walked in. Their looks were not all friendly. Some were curious, some were suspicious. A girl from the streets was an unknown. Mark was in a small office. He waved her in. Rose, how you doing? Okay, she said. Good, he leaned forward. My wife Lucy wants to thank you. She's home with Stella now. The baby is good, we're all grateful. He paused. But I gotta ask, you're a minor, you're homeless. I need to call social services, it's the law. Rose's heart dropped. She stared at the floor. Please don't, I'll just run, I'm good at it. Why? Mark asked, his voice not unkind. What are you running from? She didn't answer for a long time. Then she said, my mom's boyfriend, he's bad news. I left before he could sell me to his friends for drug money. I've been okay, I'm smart. Mark studied her. He'd seen a lot of lies. This wasn't one. He saw the toughness in her eyes, but also the fear. How old are you really? 16, she said. I'll be 17 in 2 months. Mark sighed. He made a decision. All right, no social services, not yet, but you can't live on the street. You stay with Mercy for now. You help around here. We'll find you work. You pull your weight, you follow our rules, you get protection. You break our rules, you're out. Deal. Rose couldn't believe it. Deal, she whispered. That was how Rose became a part of the club's world. She started by cleaning. She helped Mercy at the diner the club owned. She was quiet, watched everything. A few days later, Lucy brought Stella to the Sanctum. The little girl was shy, clinging to her mom's leg, but when she saw Rose, she pointed. The bus girl. Lucy smiled. She remembers you were there. Lucy hugged Rose tightly. Thank you for being there. Rose didn't feel she deserved thanks, but it felt good. Stella started coming around more. She followed Rose while Rose swept floors or folded laundry. Rose, who had never been around little kids, was awkward at first, but Stella was simple. She liked to draw. Rose would sit with her and draw too. One afternoon, Daniel, the prospect who had done the Heimlich, saw them. He was washing his bike. He watched Rose make a silly drawing of a dog with wings to make Stella laugh. Not bad, he said. Rose jumped. She hadn't heard him come over. Daniel was young, maybe in his early 20s. He had a nice smile, but he looked tired. Being a prospect meant doing all the hard jobs. Thanks, Rose said, looking away. Stella likes you, Daniel said. She doesn't like many people, she's shy. Rose just nodded. Daniel went back to washing his bike, but he kept glancing over at her. A week later, there was trouble. A member named Vince didn't like Rose being around. He thought she was a spy or a thief. He cornered her in the supply closet. You think you're clever? Vince sneered. Playing with the kid to get in good. We don't know you. I think you should disappear. Rose was scared, but she was used to scared. She didn't back down. Mark said I could stay. Mark's soft because of the kid, Vince said. He grabbed her arm. I say you go. Before Rose could react, the closet door opened. Daniel stood there, His face was hard. "Let her go, Vince." "It's just a street rat," Vince said, but he let go. "She's under the club's protection," Daniel said, his voice low. "You have a problem with that, take it to Mark. Don't bully a kid." Vince shoved past him and left. Rose rubbed her arm. "Thanks." Daniel's anger faded. He looked worried. "Stay away from Vince. Stick close to Mercy or Lucy, okay?" "Okay." That moment changed things. Daniel started checking on her. He'd bring her a soda when she was working. He'd ask if Vince was bothering her. He was being protective, but there was a spark, a charge, when their hands brushed passing a tool. They both pulled away quickly. When he smiled at her, she felt her face get hot. It was innocent, but it was there. An 18+ tension in the making, built on looks and small touches. One evening, a big problem came for the club. It wasn't a rival gang. It was a city inspector. The club's garage had failed a surprise inspection. The inspector said there were fire code violations. He was going to shut them down in 48 hours. Mark knew what it was. A rival business owner who wanted their land had paid off the inspector. This was a legal attack. The club was in an uproar. They could intimidate the inspector, but that would bring more police. They needed to fix the violations, but the list was long and technical. Rose was listening. She looked at the list of violations left on the office desk. She read it carefully. "I can fix this," she said quietly. Everyone turned. Vince laughed. "You, a kid." Mark held up a hand. "How?" Rose pointed at the list. "This one about electrical outlets. My mom's boyfriend was an electrician, a bad one, but I helped him. I know the code. This one about flammable material storage. I worked at a dry cleaner for a month. They had crazy rules about that. I know how to set it up. I can't do the big stuff, but I can organize the work. I can make a plan." Mark looked at her. He saw no boast, just facts. "All right," he said. "You're in charge of the fix. Daniel, Paul, you help her get whatever she needs." For the next 48 hours, Rose became a general. She was tiny but fierce. She made lists. She sent Daniel to the hardware store for specific parts. She showed Paul how to reroute extension cords safely. She labeled everything. She organized the messy garage with a system that made sense. The men grumbled at first, taking orders from a teenage girl, but she was right about everything, and she worked harder than anyone, carrying boxes, cleaning grease. Daniel worked beside her the whole time. They were up late, under the garage lights, sorting tools. "You're amazing at this," Daniel said, handing her a wrench. "I just pay attention," Rose said, but she smiled. They were both covered in dirt. He reached out and wiped a smudge off her cheek. His fingers were rough. Her breath caught. The air between them felt still and loud at the same time. He looked at her lips, then quickly looked away, clearing his throat. We should check the fire extinguishers." The moment passed, but the charge remained. At the end of the second day, the inspector came back. He walked through the garage, his clipboard ready. He looked shocked. Every violation was fixed, better than fixed. The place was cleaner and safer than before. He had no choice. He stamped his approval. The garage stayed open. The club had won without throwing a punch. They had won because of Rose. That night, Mark called a meeting. "Rose saved our business," he said. "She's proven her loyalty. She's one of us now. No more prospect chores for her. She's our logistics manager." Everyone cheered, even Vince, though he didn't look happy. Rose had a place, a real place. She had a job. She had a family, a strange and dangerous one, but a family. A few nights later, the club had a party to celebrate. Music played, people danced. Stella was running around, laughing. Rose sat on the steps, watching. Daniel sat down next to her. He handed her a soda. "Big change, huh?" he said. "Yeah," Rose said, "a good one." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the party. His shoulder brushed against hers. She didn't move away. He looked at her. "Rose, I like you, but you're young and I'm a prospect and it's complicated." "I know," she said. "I like you too. We don't have to do anything. We can just see." He smiled. That was enough for now. The The story doesn't end there. Rose's past with her mom's dangerous boyfriend would catch up to them. The club would face a threat that needed both Rose's street smarts and their own brand of justice. And the slow, careful, charged relationship between Rose and Daniel would grow in the shadows of the club's empire. But for tonight, under the stars, with the sound of bikes and laughter in the air, Rose was home. The peace lasted for a month. Rose had her own small room above the garage. She had a paycheck. She bought new clothes, sturdy jeans, warm boots. She worked hard, organizing the club's legitimate businesses. She found she was good with numbers too. Elena, who did the club's main books, started teaching her. Rose and Daniel were careful. They didn't flaunt anything, but everyone could see it. The way he saved her a seat at meetings, the way she packed an extra lunch for him, the long looks. Mercy smiled about it. Mark didn't comment, which was his way of approving. Then one Tuesday, Rose saw him. She was walking back from the grocery store for Mercy. A beat-up sedan was idling across the street from the sanctum. The man behind the wheel had a spiderweb tattoo on his neck. It was Roy, her mom's boyfriend. Rose's blood turned to ice. She ducked behind a dumpster, her heart hammered. He had found her. She ran back to the sanctum, her breath coming in gasps. She found Daniel first, working on an engine. "Daniel," she whispered, her face white. He dropped his wrench. "What's wrong?" "He's here, Roy, the man I ran from. He's outside, in a blue sedan." Daniel didn't ask questions. He ran to find Mark. 5 minutes later, two prospects on bikes rode past the blue sedan, but it was gone. Roy was smart. He had just been scouting. Mark called a meeting. "This Roy," he said to Rose. "What does he want?" "Me," Rose said, her voice small. "Or money. He thinks I owe him. He's a leech. He's connected to some bad people who move pills." "Is he violent?" Rose nodded, remembering the bruises on her mother's face. "Yes, but he's a coward. He won't come in here with all of you. He'll try to grab me when I'm alone." "Then you're never alone," Mark said. "Daniel, James, Paul, you are her shadows, rotate shifts. She goes nowhere without one of you." For a week it worked. Rose felt like a princess with bodyguards, but she also felt trapped. Daniel walked her everywhere. It made the chemistry between them even more intense, being so close all the time. One afternoon in the empty garage, he was showing her how to check the oil on a bike. She stood between his arms as he pointed at the dipstick. His chest was against her back. She could feel his breath on her neck. He stopped talking. The garage was silent. He slowly turned her around to face him. His eyes were dark and serious. He leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't a gentle first kiss. It was full of all the worry and want they had been holding back. Her hands fisted in his shirt. He pulled her closer. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that for so long," he said, his forehead against hers. "Me too," she breathed. It was a perfect, charged moment. But it was short-lived. The next day, Roy made his move. He didn't come for Rose. He went for softer targets. He found out where Mercy's diner was. He waited until Mercy was taking the trash out at night. He stepped out of the shadows. "I hear you're looking after my girl," Roy said, his voice slick. Mercy froze. "I don't know you." "Rose, she's my ward. I want her back, or I want compensation for my trouble. $50,000 seems fair." Mercy, who was not easily scared, laughed in his face. "Get off my property before I call the club." Roy's smile vanished. "You tell your biker friends that if I don't get my money or the girl, I'll start talking to the police. I'll tell them all about the underage girl living with a motorcycle gang. I'll make such a stink, child services will raid that clubhouse. You'll never see her again, and neither will they." He slipped back into the shadows and drove away. Mercy told Mark immediately. The club was furious. This was a new kind of threat, not guns, but lies and lawyers and cops. "We can't just beat him up," James said. "If he goes to the cops bruised, his story looks real." "We can't pay him," Mark said. "That never ends." Rose felt sick. She was bringing disaster to her new family. "I should just go," she said, tears in her eyes. "I'll leave town. He'll follow me and leave you alone." "No," Daniel said, his voice firm. "You're not going anywhere. We protect our own. We'll outsmart him." But how? They decided to use Rose as bait, a controlled situation. They would make Roy think she was alone and then catch him trying to take her. They could record it, prove he was a kidnapper, and then deal with him. The plan was set. On Friday, Rose would walk to the public library a few blocks away. Daniel and James would be watching from a van. Other club members would be nearby on bikes. Rose was terrified, but she trusted them. Friday came. Rose left the sanctum, a backpack of books on her shoulders. She felt every eye on her. She walked slowly towards the library. Halfway there, Roy's sedan pulled up to the curb. The passenger window rolled down. "Get in, Rose, don't make a scene." Rose shook her head, backing up. "No." Roy got out of the car. He grabbed her arm. "Yes." This was the moment. Rose screamed, "Now." But nothing happened. The van was supposed to block the car. The bikes were supposed to surround them. The street was empty. Roy grinned, a nasty smile. "Jammed their radios, sweetheart. Cheap device online. Your friends are listening to static." He threw her into the backseat and got in the driver's seat. He sped off. In the van, Daniel and James heard the scream, then silence on the radio. They saw the car speed away. "G.O., G.O., Daniel yelled. The bikes roared to life from side streets. The chase was on. But Roy knew the city's narrow alleys. He drove like a maniac. He lost them after 3 blocks, ducking into an underground parking garage. The club regrouped at the sanctum, panicked. Mark was furious. "We lost her. How?" Daniel was beside himself with guilt and rage. "He jammed us. He's smarter than he looks." "Find her," Mark said, his voice deadly calm. "Use every contact, now." Rose was in a dirty, empty apartment. Roy had tied her hands. "Your biker buddies have money," he said. "I'm upping the price to 100,000 for you and for my silence. They'll pay." "They won't," Rose said, trying to sound brave. "Then I sell you to my connections. They'll pay good money for a pretty young thing like you." He leered at her. Rose felt real fear then. She looked around. The window was painted shut. The door was solid, but Roy had made a mistake. He'd tied her hands in front of her, not behind, and he'd used cheap plastic zip ties. Rose remembered something. When she was organizing the garage, she'd seen a video online. If you have a plastic zip tie, you can break it if you hit the locking mechanism just right against a hard edge. She waited until Roy went into the bathroom. She scrambled to the small kitchen. There was a sharp metal edge on the counter. She lined up the plastic lock of the zip tie and slammed it down as hard as she could. Snap! The tie broke. Her hands were free. She didn't run for the door. He'd hear. She went to the window. It was painted shut, but the lock was old. She used a fork from the dirty sink and pried at it. It clicked open. She shoved the window up. It led to a fire escape. She climbed out just as Roy came out of the bathroom. "Hey!" he screamed. She didn't look back. She ran down the fire escape, her boots clanging on the metal steps. She hit the alley and ran. She had no phone, she had no money, but she knew the city. She ran towards the train yard, a place she used to sleep. It was the opposite direction of the sanctum, but it was a place to hide. Meanwhile, the club was tearing the city apart. Mark called in favors from other clubs, from informants. They offered a reward. It was an old homeless man named Leo, who sometimes slept behind the sanctum, who gave them a tip. Saw a skinny girl with a backpack running like the devil towards the old train yard. Looked scared. Daniel didn't wait. He jumped on his bike and took off. Mark and a dozen others followed. Rose was hiding in an old boxcar, cold and shaking, when she heard the bikes. The beautiful, thunderous sound of Harley engines. She peeked out. Daniel was there, his headlight cutting through the dusk. "Rose," he yelled, his voice raw. She crawled out of the boxcar. "Daniel." He saw her and ran. He grabbed her and hugged her so tight she couldn't breathe. "Are you hurt? Did he hurt you?" "No, I'm okay. I got away." Mark pulled up. He got off his bike. "Where is he, Rose?" She gave them the address of the apartment. Mark looked at his men. Let's go have a chat with Roy. This was not a protocol, this was club justice. They surrounded the apartment building. Mark, Paul, and James went up. Roy was packing his bag, scared now that he'd lost his prize. When the door blew open, he froze. Mark walked in. He didn't hit him, he just looked at him. You took a girl under our protection, you threatened our family, you tried to sell her. It's a misunderstanding, Roy stammered. We're not the police, Mark said quietly. We don't need proof. We know, here are your options. Option 1, you leave this city tonight. You never come back. You never contact Rose or Mercy or anyone connected to us. You disappear. Or what? Roy whispered. Mark smiled. It was not a nice smile. Option 2, we call our friends at the prison. We have friends everywhere. We tell them you're a child trafficker. They don't like that kind in there. You won't last a week. Roy's face was white. I'll go tonight. Smart choice, Mark said. We'll be watching the roads. If we see you again, we skip option 1. They left him shaking in the apartment. Back at the sanctum, it was a celebration. Rose was safe. The threat was gone. A week later, Mark made it official. He gave Rose a small leather vest. It didn't have the full patch. It had a simple patch on the back that said Sanctum, and on the front, a smaller patch that said Logistics. You earned this, Mark said. Your family, not a prospect, not an associate, family. Rose put it on. It was heavy. It felt like armor. That night, under the stars in the clubhouse backyard, Daniel found her. She was wearing her new vest. You look good in leather, he said, smiling. She smiled back. Thanks. He took her hand. I was so scared when you were gone. Me too. He kissed her again, this kiss slower, sweeter, full of relief and promise. It was a kiss that said this was just the beginning. The club's empire was safe. They had defended it not just with muscle, but with cleverness and loyalty. And they had gained a new, fierce member, a girl who had frozen once, but would never freeze again. She had found her roar, and it was the sound of home. Thank you for watching. If a stranger's child was dying in front of you, would you freeze or would you act? What would you do to protect someone with nowhere else to go? Subscribe and tell us your city in the comments. Could this happen where you live?